Hi. Good to see you guys. Well, welcome. We are so glad that you are here. And if you are attending this training, there's probably a reason, and it's a good reason. It's that we all want to grow our businesses. We all want to see something dynamic happen. And I think the way that we can do that, what we want to present to you is, if you clarify your message, customers will listen. If we just make our messaging crystal clear, customers will listen. But we have an enormous problem. I mean, a serious problem. And it's a problem that we're going to have to solve. And the problem is this: most companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing collateral. And I mean an enormous amount. Like when I walk through an airport and I'm looking at the billboards all over the airport, or if I'm driving down the freeway and I see these signs, most of it is a complete waste of money. And the reason is, if I'm driving 85 miles per hour down a freeway, there's no way I'm going to read and understand the message that's on that billboard. So however much money you paid for that billboard, you just wasted it. It's not going to get you any sales. And it's not just billboards and airports and freeways. It's the emails that we send. I don't know how many of you guys have opened an email. I open them all the time, and I read them, and I just think, this doesn't make me want to buy anything. There's nothing in this email that makes me want to engage your brand. And here's how the problem plays out. I've done this so many times I can't count anymore. I get really excited about a new business idea, and of course I want to create marketing collateral immediately. I want to create a new website. So I take all these ideas down to a designer, and this designer may be unbelievably gifted, right? They have a degree in design, they know everything about Photoshop, all this stuff. They create a beautiful website. I go home, I look at this website, and have you ever done this? You just start refreshing the website. It's not going to change, but you just refresh it because you're just so excited about it. And it's this beautiful reflection of your heart and who you are and your story, and you're introducing yourself to the world. And you look at it, and the next day you're like, I can't wait for the sales to start. My phone's going to start ringing, and nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. And here's why. It's because that designer knows a lot about making things pretty and beautiful and symmetrical and all this kind of stuff, but that's not why people buy things. People buy things almost exclusively because they heard or they read words that made them want to buy things. It's the way we talk about our products that move our products. And that designer, while they may really be great at design, right? They have never studied sales copy. They don't know how to write anything that would sell anything. So we just trusted, with our main retail presence, this designer who really doesn't understand how to use words. And it is costing us an enormous amount. People buy products only after they read the words that make them want to buy products. Think about the last time you bought something on Amazon. You probably looked at the picture of whatever it is you're going to buy for a second. Then you scrolled through and saw it from the back side and the side and this sort of thing. And then you might have read maybe a couple sentences of whatever the company said about the product, but we all know where we're going. You scroll down to the reviews and you start reading, what is the reality of this? Is it going to work for me? And if those words convince you that it might, you're willing to place an order. But it was all about the words that we used. If we can make our messages really clear about why our customers really need our products, we're going to win in the marketplace. I want to present to you an idea, and it's this. People do not buy the best products. They don't. People don't buy the best products and services. They buy the ones that are communicated the clearest. People don't buy the best products and services. They buy the ones that they can understand the fastest. Now, I don't mean to say we shouldn't have the best products and services. We absolutely should. But the reality is we're in a race to get people to understand why they need our product and service. And if your competitor has an inferior product to you, but they are a better communicator, I guarantee you they will beat you in the marketplace every single time. Why? Because the customers never knew you had a better product, and they never knew why they might need it. So we've got to communicate very simply and easily in a way that people can understand. There are two things that I want you to understand about the human brain. Two things that will help you communicate very clearly. The first thing that the human brain is always trying to do is it's trying to help you survive and thrive. This is literally the main task of your brain. You are designed with a brain that's main objective and goal is to keep you alive. That's what it's doing. Now, we live in a first world economy, most of us, thank goodness. We don't necessarily spend a lot of time thinking about where our next meal is going to come from. So grateful for that. We don't think about where we're going to sleep tonight. So some of those needs are taken care of. And you remember back when you studied Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once food and shelter are taken care of, you start thinking about relationships and tribes. But even thinking about relationships, it's a survival mechanism. I mean, we're looking for teams of people who will support us both emotionally, spiritually, physically. So that when I say to you, hey, can I get you a refill on that cup of coffee? You think, man, Don is a really nice guy. I mean, he went and got me a refill. It's actually not technically what's happening. On the primitive level, something very different is taking place, and it's this. I'm going to get you some coffee so that you will like me, so that when barbarians come over the hill behind our cul-de-sac, you will fight with me. That's literally what's taking place. We don't necessarily think of life that way, but this is most definitely the operating system that we all function in, and it's the way our customers actually think. So what does this mean about the way we want to communicate to our customers? Well, it means this. If what you're communicating about your brand, if what you're communicating about your product isn't directly connected to helping your customers survive and thrive, they aren't going to pay attention. They're not. That's the data that they're looking for. They're looking for something that says, you're going to help me get ahead, you're going to help me be stronger, you're going to help me save money, you're going to help me be more productive, you're going to help me establish more security, you're going to help me experience a greater quality of life. I am trying to survive and thrive here, and I'm always scanning the environment for data that's going to help me do that. So if everything that I'm doing is trying to help me survive and thrive, even in these broad, general ways, and you come up to me at a cocktail party and I say, hey, what do you do for a living? And you say, well, I've got this company that actually my grandfather started it 75 years ago, and we've just done really great. We've won a ton of awards. We have an amazing Great Places to Work metric, and we're actually trying to double revenue this year, which is, what am I hearing? I'm hearing nothing that is going to help me survive and thrive. And that's a problem. And it's a problem because of the second thing that the human brain is always trying to do. The second thing the brain is trying to do is conserve calories. Literally, it's trying to conserve calories. It takes a lot of calories to process information. I mean, those of you who have ever passed the bar exam or taught a long course or tried to spend a full day writing a chapter in a book or something like that, you know that at the end of the day, you are completely exhausted. And yet all you did was sit there and think. Well, you didn't just sit there and think. You actually burned a lot of calories processing all that information, and it's tiring. So, what happens? When your brain has to process a ton of information and burn a lot of calories, processing data that it knows has nothing to do with your survival, it turns off. Your brain literally says, I don't need this information. So when somebody asks you at a cocktail party, hey, what do you do for a living? And you start talking about your grandfather and the awards you've won and how old your company is and all these kinds of things that are really about your story. The person who's listening says, I don't think I'm going to burn a bunch more calories listening to this guy. I'm out of here. Or worse, when I say, what do you do? Where do you work? And you say, well, it's complicated. What did you just tell me? You just told me you're going to have to burn a ton of calories that'll be completely wasted in order to understand why this would ever be important to you. And that's going to put you at risk. Because if you burn a ton of calories at this cocktail party and you deplete your energy and barbarians come over the hill right at the end of the party, they're going to kill you. I realize that all sounds silly and primitive, but it's actually the way human beings, and it's a good thing. It's what keeps you alive. I mean, if you didn't function this way, your life would be completely meaningless. I mean, you'd go into a Starbucks and you'd see the first package and you go, wow, this package is really interesting. I like the type font. How did they seal this? You would just go randomly into information that means nothing for your survival and thrive. And every day you would have trouble getting out of bed in the morning because you're just processing information that you don't need. And eventually the barbarians would in fact get you, which we don't want to happen. What this means for our brand, though, is we want to communicate about things that help our customers survive and thrive. And we want to do so in such a simple, clear way. They don't have to burn any calories to understand it. The clearest communicator will win. And it's not just in selling products and services, it's also in leadership. The clearest communicator will almost always win. People do not buy the best products and services. They don't. And they never will. They buy the products and services they can understand the fastest. You are in a race to communicate clearly. Every time you share a piece of information about your product or service, I want you to picture yourself handing somebody an 8-pound bowling ball, right? Now, if you handed me an 8-pound bowling ball right now, I could hold it. You'd watch me hold it and wouldn't be too uncomfortable. But then you want to share something else about your product or service. So now you handed me 2 8-pound bowling balls. And then you hand me a third bowling ball, but the third one you actually used some kind of inside language, some term that I'm not familiar with. You know, if you're an accountant, you're talking about something that has to do with accounting, you say just things, and you're actually making me burn even more calories. That's like taking the third bowling ball and wrapping it in Vaseline and handing it to me. So I've got 2 bowling balls, and then I've got one that I can't quite get a grip on because it's so slippery. What happens when you hand me the 4th bowling ball? How many bowling balls do I drop? All of them. And it's exactly what's happening to us when we talk about our businesses. I mean, you're at a cocktail party and you tell me, you know, we're trying to accomplish this and we solve this really technical problem for customers and, you know, we do this. And by the 4th bowling ball, my brain is fighting to stay awake. And you're also in severe competition because right behind you at this cocktail party, somebody is passing around bacon-wrapped dates. And bacon-wrapped dates have everything to do with my survival and thriving. And the nonsense that you're spitting out has nothing to do with me surviving. So now I've got to glaze my eyes over and pretend I'm paying attention to you, and really I'm paying attention to something else. You know, we have a mantra at StoryBrand, and it's this: if you confuse, you'll lose. And I mean that. We should never, ever confuse our customers. Lee Lefevre has this term that he uses when he talks about how easy it is to confuse customers. That's called the curse of knowledge. So if you would imagine a scale of like 1 to 10, right? And 10 represents everything you know about your product or brand. And it's a lot. I mean, you're intimately familiar with this stuff. You may have even created it. You spent so much time in the lab. You know this product inside and out. The problem is you now project that knowledge onto your customers. You think they know a lot more than they actually do. But you know you got to simplify it a little bit. So you actually simplify it from level 10 maybe down to level 6. You made it a little bit easier for your clients to understand why they would need your product and service. But there's still a problem. And the problem is this: people make buying decisions between levels 1 and 2. The gap between levels 2 and levels 6 is called the curse of knowledge. And most people don't know that they have it. I mean, your customers are really thinking very simply, especially the first time they engage your brand: how can you help me survive? How can you help me thrive? And don't confuse me when you explain it. And if you do that, and I need your product, I'll give you my business. I think we're missing out on an enormous amount of business by not communicating clearly and not making our communication about our customers' needs. All right, there are 2 things I want you to think about as we end this first module and as we begin the StoryBrand workshop. And the first is this: is the message I'm sending about my product about my customer survival? I mean, think about it. Think about the last time you wrote about your product. Think about your website right now. Think about that sales letter that you recently sent out. Think about the speech that you just gave. Did you talk about how somebody needs what you have and how it pertains to their survival? Because that's actually all they're interested in. And the second question is the message clear and simple? Have you avoided the curse of knowledge? If you've answered no to either of those questions, we've got help. By the time you finish this workshop, you are going to have 7 categories of messages figured out and written down. And those messages will get customers to respond because they will be simple and clear, and they'll have to do with your customers' survival. So with that, let's get started.